and back to the pines. And I got out. I just looked around. I just made it a point to just kind of look around and absorb what I was in. And I was overcome with this absolute, profound sense of stillness and peace.
Welcome to Wild Development Studio. Join us as we venture into the breathtaking realm of wildlife arts and untamed adventures. With captivating stories from the field and ideas to dive into the visual arts, we'll ignite your passion for conservation. Get ready to develop something wild.
Nationally acclaimed, award-winning vocalist, composer, recording artist, speaker, plus animal lover and tree hugger, Shannon Modrell sings music of myth, magic, and imagination. Having attracted a global following, her one-of-a-kind performances receive standing ovations on stages at international conferences and holistic events from U.S. coast to coast. Shannon speaks and sings at conferences and seminars, combining speaking with live music to deliver what she calls motivational edutainment in the form of wildly inspiring keynote concerts. Well, welcome to the show, Shannon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Me too. So you're a motivational speaker. We actually met through the Mic Drop workshop, so I'm so happy we've met and you're here today. So you speak at events and associations on topics like self-confidence and women's empowerment and stepping into a bigger version of your life. So what made you want to come on today and talk on a podcast that's all about nature?
Well, because I've always felt really just deeply connected to nature. And in addition to speaking, I'm also a professional recording artist, and the music that I do has taken lately a turn into very nature-inspired, kind of enchanted forest theme, fairies and things like that, and the healing of forests and trees. I'm a huge advocate of forest preservation and the replanting of more and more trees and sort of xeriscaping and natural landscaping, et cetera, and reducing lawn space in favor of, more natural looking, natural appearing and natural species. So it's all very connected for me. So that's what made me really excited about what you're doing with the whole nature photography and nature inspired endeavors that you do.
Yeah, it's all connected. In your way of connecting with nature is all through your music, and your Instagram is very much full of greenery and beautiful flowers, and it's definitely a sense of wildlife there. Where do you think your love of trees and forests came from?
Well, when I was about 3 or 4, we moved to Fayetteville, North Carolina, and our backyard was full of all of these glorious tall pine trees. And I know that's a species a lot of people have some very negative feelings about, but they have a special magic to them. They really do. That's, I think, gets overlooked and misunderstood or not understood. But so that experience, of course, influenced me. But honestly, I don't think it's just that. I know people say, oh, well, you always want to return back to what you experienced as a child, and there's truth in that. But to be honest with you, it just feels like it has always been a part of my soul. And I mean, even our front yard in that very same house as a child, it had no trees in it. And I hated that. I mean, even as early as 3 or 4 years old, I felt the difference between being in the backyard with all the trees and all the other neighbors that had the trees in their backyards, and then going to the front yard and going, wow, something is really missing here. And I felt that deeply. I feel this deep, indescribable loss anytime a tree gets cut down, even if it's necessary. There are times it's necessary, to protect property or persons. That's unfortunate. Or if if it's dying and it's gonna, create just damage, understandable. But I still feel this sense of loss around that. And when they're cut down wantonly, or when nature anywhere is eradicated in the name of quote unquote progress, especially when it's just done just kind of thoughtlessly, I just feel this deep sick gut feeling, that same gut feeling you get when you're looking on television and seeing, you know war or crimes. That same gut wrenching feeling when I see a forest clear cut, or when I see uh, you know the ocean full of plastic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just always been with me.
Kind of very interesting that you said even at a young age that the front yard being barren of trees, you felt like that was wrong. And I recently moved from a place where we had very little trees around us, and now we've got this whole forest in our backyard. And I'm
Oh,
just so much happier with the trees around.
yes, yes, yes. And I realize not everyone is connected to nature, kind of like you and I probably are, don't feel that deep sense of connection quite so consciously, but I really do feel like uh just as humans, as beings, sentient beings on this earth, we are deeply connected to our environment and to nature, even though we've kind of been trained to not feel it or not notice it. Kind of been we've kind of been trained to not quite feel any connection to it.
Yeah, I feel like that has been kind of uh I don't want to say beaten out of us. It sounds really violent, but you know what I mean? Like, we're expected to work in these sterile buildings all the time and stare at computer screens. And I feel like we're losing that sense of our connectivity to Mother Earth. What do you have any suggestions for people to try and be more intentional about getting outside?
I absolutely do. I know that, well, like you said, we can get caught up in the moments um, of what we have to do, and if if we don't feel that if we don't feel that inner pull to just naturally get out there, making the time to do it. I mean, I know that sounds like an overly simplified answer, but really and truly making the time to just go out there and spend some time in nature, in natural environments, and start to kind of, I guess, just pay attention to how different it can make you feel. It really can alter the way we feel. Even people who aren't, don't feel this natural deep connection to it like I do, have reported, that they do feel a difference when they get out in nature. So just making it a point to do that, and creating more natural environments in our own on our own property, on our own yard, whatever that looks like, or even if we're in a condo or an apartment, on the patio or something, looking to do more native species of things, but just creating something more than just the default grass lawn.
Mhm.
And I always, sometimes people say, well, we can't get rid of all the grass. I've got dogs and kids. Well, and yeah, I understand that. And at the same time, I think we've just kind of been default conditioned to, oh, well, a grass lawn, that's what the builder puts in, and that's what I see everywhere, and that's what's in all the subdivisions. And oh, well, I guess that's just the accepted norm. But if we'll put things, I mean, even if you just do it around the perimeter, around that, just adding more flowers, adding more bushes, adding more and I don't mean square bushes that you have to maintain all the time to cut into unnatural shapes. I'm not talking about that, but natural, letting your bushes grow more naturally,
Mhm.
instead of thinking it's got to be this sculpted look.
There's a
I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
No, it's perfect because I was gonna mention the bringing natural plants into your yard. It's gonna bring natural animals into your yard. You're gonna see more butterflies, more birds and things like that, and you're going to have a much more enjoyable experience in your yard. There's a group called Love Our Land, local to Ohio, and their whole mission is educating people about plants that look like what you would get, you know, we have stuff that's from Asia and stuff in our yard, and supplementing that with things that look the same that are native, that's going to help support your native animals here. And people don't understand it. I mean, yeah, they're beautiful plants and everything, but if we're supporting our natural ecosystem, we're all going to benefit.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I like, for example, for winter, over winter, I leave everything just messy looking. I leave all the stalks up. I don't cut any of that down. It creates seeds for the birds that need that. As during the winter, we live up here in Kentucky where it's snowy, and as the winter months get colder and colder, the birds have less and less food, especially now that we're destroying a lot of their habitat, and
Yeah.
yeah, every little bit helps them.
Yeah, and we don't break our leaves because it's good for it gives things like insects a place to stay warm in the wintertime, even though it's been
Absolutely.
unseasonably warm, which I'm okay with kind of.
Yeah, I can't complain about that. But yeah, yeah, I love all that natural mulch. I leave all that down. I don't see the point of raking up natural mulch to throw it away, to go buy mulch and replace it in the beds when the free stuff was there for a whole lot less work and a whole lot less money, and
Yes.
much better for the plants to begin with, and without the chemicals, et cetera, et cetera. And
Yeah, and then the stuff that you raked up isn't gonna go sit in a landfill and fill those up, and there's just
exactly.
so much that we need to learn about living with nature. Um, do you have a specific memory in nature?
I do. I was singing and speaking at a conference in Northern California, just outside of Yosemite, and my friends. There were some other musician friends that were also part of the presentation there, and I don't know. I guess I must have slept in or something. They went to Yosemite without me, and I was all by myself. It's like, well, okay, what am I going to do with my time? We were kind of between, where we needed to be on stage. And so I thought, yeah, I'm just going to go. I'm here with all these forests. Oh, you bet. I am going to go and just drive out and explore. And so I did that. I just drove until I just kind of found a road that looked interesting to take me down, through forests, and I just kind of drove until it was really quiet and secluded. I just drove until I felt okay. I'm close enough to the main road that I'm by myself. I don't want to be out. Get too far down deep in the forest all by myself. But so I just drove until I felt okay. This is where I need to be. I parked the car, pulled over, and the species of trees up there are different, of course, than the species of trees here in the Midwest or the South where I grew up. And but they were, pretty much pines again, and back to the pines, evergreens. And I got out and I I just looked around. I just made it a point to just kind of look around and absorb what I was in. And I was overcome with this absolute profound sense of stillness and peace. Not just the peace of the environment, but the inner peace that being in that environment and connecting to that environment brought in me. And I mean, I can recall that sense of peace to this day. and I can call back on that somatic memory, that bodily felt memory of that specific. I'm going to call it a facet of peace because people who aren't as into trees, this may sound woo and weird, but each tree, each species of trees has a different energy. It has a different feeling tone, and I could feel that there. So that specific forest had just, I'm going to call it a magic. It had a magic to it. It's experiences like that we have that stay with us and sort of change us in a way. It's something that you can hear about it, you can listen to someone else describe it. You don't really get it until you experience it for yourself. And I can call on that feeling anytime I need to because it's a bodily felt memory. And it's not like that was the first experience of being out in the woods and being at peace that I ever had, because of course that's one of the benefits of being in a forest is a sense of peace. But there was something really specific about that one in particular that just really touched something in me, and I can call on that now, even when I'm on stage speaking or singing. Is that sense of groundedness, and I keep going back to that word peace. I know I'm saying it over and over again, but it's real.
That's
It's
beautiful.
I'm here to testify. It's real.
Do you have a memento or a picture or something to help you recall that memory, or is it just it's there and you know it's there and you can call on it whenever you want?
Yeah, I actually did not have a camera with me, and this was way back in the days before smartphones even. And which is another reason I didn't go too far deep in because I didn't have any kind of mobile phone with me.
Oh yeah.
I didn't want to go too far into the wild unknown by myself.
Mhm.
But uh, yeah, it's so vivid that I can just go right back to it.
Everybody needs an experience like that to just help them, even if you're in a stressful situation, to bring that and to help center you and feel calm and that peace that you were talking about. Have you ever heard the quote, "Between every two pines is a doorway to a new world"?
Yes,
I kept thinking of you
yes.
when or when you said that, I kept thinking of this quote, and that's beautiful, and it brings back to your singing, and can you tell us a little bit more about your singing?
Yes, I've toured the U.S. singing and speaking and doing music to uplift and empower. And like I said, it's as artists we're constantly reinventing ourselves, and that just that attachment and that call to nature has really been knocking at my door to incorporate that more into the music and to just bring that sense of enchanted forest and just the whole magic of that, and to bring that for other people to get to experience. And even if the music isn't doesn't speak lyrically to nature or forests, the energy of that connection transmutes on an unconscious level.
Mhm.
You know, it's that level of things that we can't really describe necessarily through linear logic.
So, have you always been a singer?
I have. I remember singing in my backyard in North Carolina. I was, as a little kid, always, always, always singing. My mom said, "You were always singing and dancing, always, always, always," and singing to birds and singing to just to the sky. And then it actually wasn't until my very early 20s that I started doing it professionally.
Do you feel that singing brings you closer to nature, or do you think that being out in nature brings the singing out in you?
Yeah, it really is sort of like the infinity. The eight, and it's one, and they each feed each other. Um, I I've cut some videos of me singing out in forests, and I haven't released them yet, but they're in the works.
Yay.
They'll be coming, and yeah, and it it becomes a little hard to articulate because it is such a uh, bodily felt experience. It's an experience that is beyond rational thought. It's yeah.
Now I
Yeah,
did
maybe that's a long way of saying yes.
now I like a longer answer than just yes. That that helps move the podcast along a little. It's more interesting for everyone. That's great. I did read on your website that you were wheelchair bound for 6 months. How
Oh,
how did
yes.
how did that experience change you, and how did you is that what inspired you to help other people through your public speaking?
I It's definitely there in the mix. I was in an auto accident. It was actually on my 18th birthday. No, there was no drinking or any, mind altering substances involved, which is the first thing a person tends to think when they say, "Oh, the 18th birthday." Yeah. Um, it was a life altering experience, and uh, yeah, I was in the wheelchair for about 6 months, and then I was in a on a using a walker for a while, and then on crutches, and that whole process was about a year. And it's hard to go through something like that and not have some kind of spiritual awakening.
Mm, mhm.
That wasn't the first one that I ever had, but it was a major one. And yeah, I'd say it was definitely a contributing factor to the whole journey of really committing to music that is more than just mere entertainment. Even though entertainment is important, it really does serve a purpose for us emotionally, mentally, spiritually, just being able to, experience joy and pleasure, but also really getting serious about the intention behind the music and my why. For why do I want to be on stage, and what kind of lyrics do I want to sing and put out there into the world, and just to be a part of contributing something that is transformational and healing for people, sort of while we're being entertained.
Yeah, music is very can be very healing. That's heavy stuff.
It is, and I've always been drawn to the heavy stuff. That's always it's yeah it and so there's always been these two sides of me, very on one hand very light and buoyant and kind of this jester, want to have fun and be lighthearted, and yet there's the heavy deep, let's talk about the deeper meaning of life, and let's talk about things that need to be discussed, and healing, and address pain, and address and experience those things, such as being connected to nature, that a lot of people don't necessarily relate to or understand, but are very, very real, and sort of how that affects the subconscious. I feel like I'm kind of rambling. I'm not sure if I'm making sense and connecting the dots
Yeah.
so much, but it makes perfect sense to me.
Mhm.
It's how connected it all is. Yeah.
So I guess I got a two-part question for you then. What is your favorite song to sing for healing? And then what's your favorite song to sing that really makes you feel connected with nature?
Hmm.
And they could be
Wow.
the
Yeah.
same too.
Picking a song. A healing song. Oh, I've got one actually that I wrote that's called "The Wishing Tree," and it's very much about sort of returning to that place of nurturing the inner child. Um, oh, little child, so scared and alone, longing for a place that you can call home. Take your fears, come back to me. My love will take you where you want to be. So,
Beautiful.
thank you, thank you. Yeah, that's definitely very obviously tied to nature because of the theme, the wishing tree.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
listening to your stuff on Instagram last night, and my husband
Oh,
came to the door and he's like, "Is that you singing?" I'm like, "No, it's this woman I'm interviewing tomorrow named Shannon." He's like, "It's beautiful. It's very
oh,
enchanting. I love it."
thank you, thank you. Yeah, yeah.
So, where is your number one favorite spot in nature to go?
Definitely the forest. Number one, and I'm going to say any forest. I know that sounds very general. Any forest of any kind. Um, my second favorite would be the beach, the shore, specifically Sarasota, Florida, or yeah, or we actually we did a trip to, oh gosh, where was it? It was one of the tropical locations, and we went out and we swam with. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank of which one it was. Um, it was the Cayman Islands, and we went and swam with the stingrays.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was another one of those once in a lifetime, well, not necessarily once, but that was another one of those pivotal moments where I came back from that excursion. I I kid you not, I felt like a completely different person. And part of it was, I think, the salt water, and the communing with the animals was a huge part. And some of it was, just being in a different environment, being outside of your typical environment, but just being there in that water with those animals. And I did not expect to come back from that excursion feeling like a completely different person, but I did. And it's nothing I could have anticipated. Someone could have described it to me in vivid detail and told me to expect that, but I would never have really understood what that would feel like until I experienced it for myself.
It's very vulnerable being in the water because we're not used to it. You can't breathe very easy, if you're like looking
Yeah.
at something in the water and it just really, you're kind of at the mercy of whatever's around you and just taking it
Yes.
all in. I
Yes.
love that. So, where can people find your nature inspired Celtic music?
Well, on my website, I actually have a free song. Um, it's shannonmodrell.com. That's ShannonModrell, shannonmodrell.com. And that's going to be the best place to find it and take a listen to that free song.
So that's nice of you
That's
to provide a free song for everybody. I'll also
yeah.
link that in the show notes so people can just click right on this episode and check that out. And if they
Thank you.
wanted to book you to speak at their event, where can they reach out to you?
Okay, the web address for that is a bit long currently, but so for now, probably the best thing to do is just to go to my LinkedIn, which is Shannon Modrell. I think it's Shannon dash Modrell on LinkedIn, and um, it'll say Shannon Modrell's motivational speaker, singer, songwriter, keynote concerts. That's how you'll know you're at the right Shannon.
Perfect. I'll link your LinkedIn in this show notes today too. And then
Thanks.
before we go, and we talked on this a little bit already, but what is your number one tip that you would have for someone that would like to connect with nature?
Mm, do it as soon as possible. If you're not accustomed to doing that, don't underestimate the power of it. I mean, most of us have been in nature at some point or another, but I mean, really and truly, don't underestimate the power of going out, making it a point to go out and be in nature as often as you possibly can. And like we talked about before, bringing it to you as much as you can into your yard or your plants in your house, whatever. If you have cats, make sure they're not toxic to your cats because a lot of them are, or dogs. But that's I think it just boils down to be as simple as that. I know we get busy, we get caught up in the moments. I'm guilty of the same thing, even though I'm a avid fan of nature and feel very connected to it. I always feel better when I make it a point to take it seriously and just get out there and do it as much as I can.
Great advice. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your music with us today. And until next time, get outside and see what develops.
Thanks for joining Wild Development Studio. We hope this exploration into the world of wildlife arts and adventure has sparked a desire to get outside and connect with something wild. If you have an adventure that's awe-inspiring, don't hesitate to share. Click the link in the description to submit your story to have it featured on our show or be a guest. Until next time, keep connecting to the wild and see what develops. The views, opinions, and statements expressed by individuals during Wild Development Studio productions do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Wild Development Studio or its affiliates. Participation in any activities, expeditions, or adventures discussed or promoted during our content may involve inherent risks. It is strongly advised that individuals conduct thorough research, seek professional guidance, and take all necessary precautions before engaging in any such activities. Wild Development Studio, its representatives, or employees shall not be held responsible for any injury, loss, damage, accident, or unforeseen incident that may occur as a result of participating in activities inspired by or discussed in our content. By choosing to engage with our content or act upon any information provided, individuals do so at their own risk and discretion.